Howdy my friends, and welcome back to the acoustic guitar lessons. Scott Groove here. Lesson number 12. It's just a continuation of 11 where we started working on theory, understanding what it is that actually makes chords work, how they are formed. Okay, in the last lesson we stopped off at how to make minor chords. Okay, in the two lessons after this one, we will find out what makes these minor chords so special and all these others. But I am going to kind of whiz right through all this stuff because it is something that is on film and you can go backwards and get all this stuff anytime you want, unlike lessons with a teacher at a store, which is a waste of time and money, as we all know. Okay, so ta-da-da-da, we are back at the guitar. So hopefully you did all your minors and you found out here's a weird one. Again, you flat the third. If you went to E, it's a weird one. You got to go way up here to do your major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we get E, 2, 3, E. We got A flat or G sharp, E, G sharp, then 4, 5, which is a B. E, G sharp, and B. Okay? Okay. So we got E, B, E, B, E, B. Now another E, there's a G sharp, B, and an E string. That's why it works. This is the easy one. To flat the third is that right there, that G sharp. You just simply lift it off and it flaps. It doesn't go back here. You just lift off the finger. There's major. Okay, so we got A minor. Okay, if you went to B and you had to go to B minor, it would be this, because it was this, and that's the third. Has to go backwards, so we got a lot going on there with the bar. Okay, and C minor is same thing. Leave it up. You can go D minor here and E minor. Yes, you can. Hopefully you found that out. Again, modal chord. B minor, C minor, D minor, E minor. Okay, but from there, C minor, D minor, like I showed you. And here's E minor, F minor. From the regular F chord, all you have to do is lift one of those while we are barring all the way across. Okay, and then the G minor ends up being a weird thing because you have to take the D and flat it, so you have to end up going or just take the F minor and move it up 2 frets. So that's the answer to all of those. Okay, going on, like I said, you see all these different things where it says A sus 2 or whatever. That's when you get into adding. All suspended means, or sus means add. That is all it means, add. So if you have a D suspended second or a D sus 2, that's 2 ways of saying it. Or people just say a D2. Just whatever they can rattle off real fast, or whatever, whichever way it's written in a book, in a Bible, on sheet music. It'll just have the piano music, but then it'll have up above it, it'll say like D2 or D sus 2 for the guitar, and it won't even show anything, just show you how to what you're supposed to do. You can take away some other stuff, but you have to have a 2 in there somewhere. Okay, so you have your 1, 3, and 5. Okay, but we know that. Okay, so if we're doing D and we have to do a sus2 suspended, we gotta put a 2 in there. So we got a D. We can start here. 1, 2. That note, very easy, is an E. So what do? There's a D, and we have to do something. We have to find an E. So we're going to just do something about putting an E in this thing. Easiest way is to find the E, and it's always best to do the highest note you can put in instead of a low note. Okay, so the highest E I can find and play comfortably is just by getting rid of that finger and just letting the E note ring open, because it's a E string. So there's D major. Now D suspended second. Here's D suspended 4. And then D major. We've played them before, but now we know what they are. How did I know what D4 is? Remember here. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a G. So we have D, we add a G. Okay, or we could have lifted up here, but we want the higher note again. So there's D, sus, or suspended, or D4. D major, D sus 2, because we put the E there. It's the second note in the scale. Then you get like D6. These are things that will come along later as you're cruising, but I want to teach it to you now and just zoom this by. So we're going to zoom it by. I'm going to do it on a couple of chords, and that'll be it. The rest are up to you. And you'll understand how to do it, but you have to do it in order to learn. If you get spoon-fed everything, you will never learn. That's why I hate tabs. Try to avoid those at all costs if you can, because that slows you down more than anything. Okay, so for a D6, I'm just doing that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What note is that? We already knew what that was. That's an A. Now 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a B note. So we're in D, and we need a B note. Okay? What's the highest B note? That's right, we can just get rid of the note that's on the B string. So that's a B, or a D6. Or you can keep the whole D chord and put a finger right there on the 4th fret of the G string, and that's a B. But you'll hear that that's a Glenn Campbell, like Southern Nights. But whatever one is actually there, you know it's going to be a B note if you see D6. Okay, now here's the weird one. Okay, we've been playing major. Okay, now here comes the part that is the exception for everything, and it's best you learn this now, and this is the one concrete thing that will just freak your world out. There are 2 different sevenths. We have learned the scale of major 7. We've just learned the major scale. So in D again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's the major 7th, which is what I call the Las Vegas Chord. Okay, so it is just one note flat of the 8 or the 1, right? So if I'm doing a D again, I have to take the 1 and just go backward 1. So that means I don't have to do this. If I think about it, all I got to do is go like that, because that leaves everything where it was and just flattens that note. And then I add in the D string, and we have... Okay, we've heard many songs they end with that. Or I could play it like this. And I'll show you how to do that later. It's just like a C chord, but you move it up. Then you put a capo on it and you do that. Okay, but it's this. Okay, so that is a major 7 chord. You will have those every now and then. Again, it will be in music that has chords that sound like that. Okay, now the one that you're going to use the majority of the time, I would think for most of you, is what is called the D dominant seventh. And that means go backward one more time. So it's like a 6 sharp. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then just go up one more fret instead of to the major seventh. Okay, this is where every musician in the world would just call it a D7. It'll always just be called a 7th chord, every chord for the rest of your life. So hammer that into your head. If somebody says, hey, I want a D7, you got to take that 1 and go back 2 frets. If you go back 1, it's a major 7. Go back 2, they're just going to call it a 7th. They will always call it a 7th. They will not call it a dominant 7th, which is what it is. They'll just say, hey, play D7. So that makes, have to go backward 2 frets. And then replace the 2 notes that you took off. So that's where you get stuff. It's in blues. Or if you're getting ready to change chords, it lets other people know that you're getting ready to change chords. I'm going to do D, G, D, and A. And to get an A7, I just go down 2 frets, which means just lifting my middle finger. Okay, but D7, this. So we can always do it on the first chord and then this other one. Simply listen for the 7th. From now on, it's going to be called a 7th chord forever and ever and ever. The only one, again, that will ever be called a 7th of any kind that is different, people will say D major 7, and that means just back 1 fret. Okay? Otherwise, if they call a D7, E7, B7, Q flat to the 3rd power 7, it means just a 7 chord. Take the root or the 1 and just flat it by 2, put everything else where you can so it'll make it where it was. Here's the point in playing those chords. I'm going to do a D7 and then I'm going to do an A7 where I can just lift the A up and it'll go back 2 frets. Okay, but your other 2 fingers will be in the right place. Here is the point of 7th chords. There's 7th, G. We won't do one there. Now here's A. Now A7. Watch this. I did D, major 7, and then the D7. That's called a walk or a transition chord, just so you'll know later. Or a passing chord, but you hear you're like, how come you did an A like that and put a finger there? Because the dominant 7th, instead of just lifting that G for a G, I just added a G here. Okay, so you'll find, again, the higher you play, whatever note is available is the best way to go. Okay, here come the things that are really, really weird. And again, this is something that will just carry you on, and I will remind you later, but at least when you see it now, you'll know how to do this. Like if you're doing church music and stuff, and again, anything that has weird chords, like things that are past what we've done. So like a D9, D11, and D13. Those are the only other numbers you'll ever hear. D9, okay, so a 9, an 11, and a 13. Okay, what this basically comes down to, this is just basically, is a D7 chord. So make a D7 to begin with. 7 plus what equals 9. That's right, 7 plus 2. So you're going to start with a D7 and add a 2 to it. So we got D, E, okay, so E. So we got D7th, and we know that we can just lift a finger off and we get an E note. So there's D9. So it's a D7 plus 2. 7 plus 2 is 9. That's how it's played. So if you ever see D9 somewhere, that's how you come up with it. But you have to learn them or simply get really good at this whole theory thing that it just becomes natural, and it will. Okay? With the couple minutes we got left, that was 9. All of the remaining ones, the 2 remaining ones, are D7 again. 7 plus what equals 11. 7 plus 4. So we need a D7, and then there's going to be a 4 there somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a G. So you got D7. You're going to put a G here. There's one. So there's a D11. Now we need a D13. That's the only other chord there will ever be that you'll find. It's way up there with the big numbers. So we got D7 again. It always starts with the 7th. The dominant 7th. Never that major 7th. Just D7. As it's known forever and ever and ever for the rest of your life. Every note, every chord is a 7th. Is a 7th unless it's called a dominant 7th. Again, D7. 7 plus what? Equals 13. 7 plus 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's an F sharp. So we have that. Hey, check it out. See. Sorry, my bad. You said B. I was in the wrong thing. I was going off the A. My bad. And here we go off the D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's a B. Okay? So we have D7. Now we need a B. How do we get to a B? Well, we can put one there, way up here, but we can't hardly play anything. So that note, lift it up. Because we got a B string. Get rid of that. So we started off with one, but we can't reach it. So we can put this up here and get that G sharp that was there. Okay? And then put the G in. But it sounds horrible. So just lift up and get that B. So that's how all those work. You start with a 7th chord and you find whatever plus 7. 7 plus what? A 2 equals 9. 7 plus 4 is an 11th chord. And your 7th plus a 6 makes a 13th chord. That's how easy it is. I showed you earlier you had B minor, hopefully this way. That whole thing there with lifting that minor. See, here's minor. See. It's kind of neat to slip that minor to the major. You'll hear keyboards doing it all the time. Or if you're just playing B minor, you can lift that note up and down, that minor note. That's your flatted 3rd going to a 2. There's your flat 3 to a 2. Okay, so if we're in B, okay, what is that? That's an E, a 4. So okay, so that's what minors basically sound like, and then all the other chords. That is your introduction. I'm just going down here. That's your introduction to the basic theory of how chords are made, how babies are made, and baby chords. So again, run this back because you can, and that's all the theory you're going to need on that. The next 2 lessons, 13 and 14, are going to be theory that use all these same numbers, but they mean something completely different. Sorry to screw you up, but there's 2 forms of theory. One is how to make chords, which we just got through, 2 lessons of it. The next one is how to figure out songs by numbers in theory. Okay, so see you, we're going to learn how to play songs next. Wow, on lesson 13. Catch you in a bit.